Welcome to your weekly program, the show that brings Arab Spring to your living room. 2 years ago, millions of Arabs across the Middle East rised up and demand freedom, dignity, and they toppled regimes in Libya and Egypt and Tunisia, started in Tunisia and Yemen and elsewhere, and now in Syria it's stumbling a little bit. There's a lot of other element there. But a year later, after electing President Morsi in Egypt, first civilian elected president in thousands of years, now we have the sign. Now the military is delivering a message to Morsi from the people. I mean, look at this. This is the same tank. This is like a mail car for like $5 million mail car. This is how the military in Egypt was reduced to just deliver messages. I don't know what else the military is doing in Egypt. But this message was delivered to Egypt and to Morsi yesterday. And in June 30th, there is a demand of toppling or impeaching or for Morsi to step down. Down with Morsi, the sign says. And June 30 is marked the 1 year tenure of Morsi, and people say he's failing us and he is not really representing Egypt. And what the event in Syria, I mean, more than 90,000 million people are killed. A lot of elements, the sectarian, is it going towards sectarian war or all the external forces that they are playing in the uprising in Syria. We have here Professor Fouzi Slisli. He is a researcher in Islamic study, and he's been following an event in Syria and Arab Spring altogether. Welcome to BelAhdan, Fouzi. It's been a while since we have you here. You look good. You look well taken care of, so that's good. But the Arab Spring started with, an ambitious and against dictatorship, and people demand dignity. It wasn't really because of economic and demanding jobs and benefit, but it was mostly about dignity. People want the dignity back. And then it started secular Facebook group, young, whatever, and then we found out that the Muslims, the Islamists, played a major role in Tunisia and Egypt, and now they are running the show in most of all these Arab countries. So it turned from Arab Spring to Muslims, Islamic Spring. Now there is a movement now in Egypt to topple the Islamists in Egypt, the Brotherhood, the Morsi, and it's really picking up steam. You talk about 17 million signature within a few months. So really, I mean, the mismanagement of the Brotherhood in Egypt has a lot to do with what's going on. But let's start with Syria. I mean, it seems Syria now, I thought it really would be peaceful, and they really lasted peaceful than any other Arab Spring. It's really peaceful. It was a very peaceful protest and revolution in spite of the killing that the regime was doing. So how did this turn to become now the most violent Arab Spring in the region?
Sure. I think it's very important to remember that Syria, the Syrian revolution, remained a peaceful revolution for about 8 months. For the first 8 months, the Syrians demonstrated peacefully. What was different in Syria, it was the regime's reaction. It's the regime's reaction which was a military reaction from the first day. Practically from day one, from the incident that started in Daraa, where the regime kidnapped people's children and killed them and mutilated them because they wrote a protest sign in their school wall. So from the beginning in Syria, the regime's reaction was extremely violent, including kidnappings, torture, mutilation, firing on people, using snipers, using tanks, using bombs, and it quickly was clear that the Syrian people were not going to tolerate this anymore, that they're not going to tolerate a regime.
I mean, once you are on the street.
Exactly. And
you can go back and they're going to
once they were out and people were being killed and families and brothers and sisters and people were just just could not go back anymore.
But how the uprising was different? Was it against a dictatorship? Was it against a sectarian system? Was it against Bashar? Was it against the Alawis? Was it against? I mean, it was a lot. I mean, it seems like that military and that army also has a lot of Sunnis in them.
Yes, the regime in Syria is a sectarian regime. I mean, you do find Sunnis at the level of foot soldiers, but you rarely find officers from the Sunni community in high positions in the military or the security infrastructures or the state apparatus in general. But the revolution started initially against the regime of Bashar al-Assad, and we've seen the Syrians appealing to the Alawis and to the Shias of the community. And I think for 2 years, the Syrians were fighting Bashar al-Assad and Bashar al-Assad's regime and those who assisted. But I think after Al-Qusayr, after Hezbollah's invasion of the city of Al-Qusayr, I think it is inevitable now that we have a sectarian war.
Are you surprised of Hezbollah's moving into Syria? It seems like the Hezbollah was the most, organized, serious. I mean, not serious, but calculated group in Egypt, and they really did not make a lot of mistakes that knowing in the area what the groups are making. But
sure.
What was behind that risk that Nasrallah took?
Well, I think we have never been allowed to see the relationship of Hezbollah with Iran before, this clearly. I think for the first time, Hezbollah's relationship with the Khamenei and Hezbollah's loyalty to the system of Wilayat al-Faqih, the religious political system of Iran, has never come up on the surface this clearly until now. Mm-hmm. Before this, Hezbollah used to be a Lebanese national group and concerned mostly with Lebanese affairs and the Lebanese border with Israel. Mm-hmm. Iran had never had to use Hezbollah outside Lebanon. Mm-hmm. But this is the first time that Iran was desperate enough to use Hezbollah to support Assad. And the orders that came to Nasrallah from Iran to throw in all his weight to help support, sustain, keep the regime in place, I think was unprecedented. For the first time, there is a direct order from Tehran to Nasrallah, an order that clearly draws the region into a full-blown sectarian configuration. And they did it, and they gave the order. Nasrallah, it became obvious, cannot say no. And it seems like he didn't even have an option to discuss. Mm-hmm. But the
ramification of this. Is this like a suicidal move for them? I mean, it seems like their standing in the area was really on the rising. They
Absolutely.
Stood to the Israelis. First time somebody stood to the Israelis and almost, defeat.
Totally, Ahmed. I mean, two years ago, we could see Nasrallah's pictures all over the Arab world. Uh-huh. He was the most popular in the Arab Sunni world.
Yeah.
Nasrallah was popular. Mm-hmm. But the invasion of Syria, Hezbollah stands with Bashar al-Assad and Iran's alliance, what clearly is an Iranian colonial project in the Arab world that is based on colonizing Iraq, occupying Syria, and projecting power through Hezbollah in Lebanon. And from there, I think the rest of the Middle East is threatened. We have heard, I think the next area that's going to be threatened with this type of military assault invasion of will be the Gulf. And
well, how about the argument that Hezbollah was going to protect the only Arab national that stood to Israelis and the Americans, and he never really fall into the Americans' project. They've been always champion of anti-Americanism and anti-Israelism.
Sure, but that's what they used to do. But the moment they started destroying an Arab Muslim nation, Syria. The moment they started killing on a large scale, the moment they started destroying Syria, I mean, Syria is 20 times the size of Palestine. I mean, Hezbollah and Iran's ideology rests on, celebrating their defense of Palestine. Well, they've destroyed 10 times the surface of Palestine in Syria. And I mean, their ideology is, unfortunately, has become contradictory.
What is the role of, not just, we know the role of Iran, the Iranian project in the area, and they want to have a presence in the Arab world. How about Russia, China, and United States? It seems like they are playing good cop, bad cop. I mean, Syria is the last threshold for Russia. So if Syria is gone, Russia is gone from the area. So are those people really driven by self-interest, or they still the Cold War is coming back, or what?
No, I don't think so, Ahmed. I don't think Russia and China are serious competitors of the United States in the Middle East. That's not the case.
Bad cop.
I mean, Russia does have some influence in Syria and perhaps in Iraq, now that the relationship with Iran has been cemented more. But I think Russia and the United States agree on the regional order, right? They agree that this regional order of, the existing borders and the existing systems and the existing ways in which the military security apparatuses of these states is concerned, they agree on how to sustain the order that's there. What they disagree on is how to deal with the current revolts, right? The United States supports using soft power at this point because the United States military capabilities to intervene have been damaged seriously in Afghanistan and Iraq. And the US at this point simply pursues soft power, influence from outside, money, the development of an elite group like the coalition in Syria or the coalition in Libya or the coalition in Tunisia or the coalition in Egypt, or the United States is operating by developing these ruling groups and then using its influence and its money to try to get them in power as fast as possible, and sometimes in illegal ways, using money and influence. I mean, like we see in Egypt, for example. I mean, the influence of the United States in Egypt is not very positive because they support sometimes, they claim to support the legal process, but sometimes they put their weight and influence towards destabilizing the legal process, like we see now with Morsi. Morsi was, I mean, regardless of how one feels about him, right? The fact is that he was elected and there is a legal process. And if you encourage to overthrow this legal process, to stop it, to halt it, and throw this president out and put in there whoever you like, I don't think the other parties will let you finish your term either. They will not feel obligated to respect the legal process and wait till you finish your term and then run for election.
Well, they say we support Morsi, and the opposition are now they accuse Morsi of going, too much with the Americans. I mean, it's very. I don't know if this are the same people that in January 25th, 2 years ago. I mean, the brother has been accused now of being, sleeping in bed with the West.
I think the fact of the matter, ideologically, the ideological group, the people who oppose Morsi or who oppose the Muslim Brotherhood in Tunisia, for example, Ghannouchi, from the left, from the secular positions, would barely be heard if there wasn't Western support behind it.
I see.
This is an extremely small group of the population that, because of Western support and money and funding and media support and diplomatic support, they tend to be given a louder voice than their size. That allows the United States and the West, and also other powers who want to interfere, it allows them a way to influence both the government and the opposition.
So they're using the opposition to influence.
And play both against each other.
You know, Professor Fouzi Slisli, I know you came all the way here. Well, thank you so much for sharing this with us. It's insightful. And a week ago, there was marking the 6-month anniversary of the Newtown massacre in Connecticut. And, you know, People for Action and Pro-Minnesota groups, other group went for a candle vigil. I went and I talked to this group about gun control, why until today is still gun culture dominating the political landscape in this country. So enjoy that interview. We'll see you next week. Assalamu alaikum and God bless you all. Park, we're organized, 2 organizations here come, Organization for Action and Protect Minnesota, gathered to commemorate 6 months anniversary of the tragedy of Newton 6 months ago, and raise the awareness of gun violence in this country and making sure that our politician is listening and we're not going to go away. And they song, we shall overcome, and we shall overcome someday. Matter of fact, they say today. What's going on today?
My name is Jan Corsol, and I am on the core team of OFA, which means Organizing for Action. It is a grassroots group, and what this occasion is tonight is a commemorating of the 6-month anniversary of the killing of the 20 children in Newtown, Connecticut, and the 6 teachers. So we're gathering folks here to try to rev up our courage and to confront our state legislatures and Washington, D.C., of course, to try to get some control on gun violence so that children and all of us can feel safe when we're out and walking around.
Over a good estimate of 40% of gun sales have no background check whatsoever, and we have to get the guns out of the hands of people that shouldn't be owning firearms.
What is the biggest argument for gun control from your perspective?
Life. You know, just God is very pro-life. You know, it just started back in creation in Genesis. You know, just everything was about peace. Everything was about getting, just being brothers and sisters. You know, and just taking care of each other.
Gun culture in our state, hunters, NRA members, gun rights activists, and they have been a very vocal group, especially during the legislative session. The NRA really whipped those people up, and they were showing up with their guns, carrying their guns. There's no signs at the Capitol saying you can't carry guns on the premises.
Your organization is grassroots.
Yes.
You get people, mobilized and excited, and then what? What's next after an event like that?
For example, tonight, the media clips that are generated by these type of events. Congress, the people in Washington live on the bites of what shows up in their local media. So any event that we put on any of these issues, and we are in support of the president's second term agenda, and but any of these issues that will show up in the news, these people in Washington pay attention to. They're like, oh.
What is the biggest obstacle for gun control in your
The biggest obstacle is, I would say, the gun manufacturing industry and their henchmen, if you will.
I don't.
Even the NRA, my understanding is that once upon a time the NRA was about responsible gun use and used to train people how to use guns well. And then some time ago, a faction of probably representatives of gun manufacturers took over, if you will, the NRA, got the leadership that would support the manufacture of guns, and now I believe the NRA is about making money for the gun lobby.
What about the American culture and guns and violence?
I think it goes back in our history. We're a very frontier country. We started. It goes back to the Revolution. That to be a free nation, we had to fight. In order to expand, westward, we had to fight. Just unfortunately, we had to fight Native Americans, which is really a dark stain, on our history. But to expand, we had to use guns.
Senators or congressmen doing in Minnesota, are they?
Both Amy Klobuchar and Al Franken voted for the Manchin-Toomey amendment. When it came up for a vote, it was about a month and a half ago, and we heard that congressional district, our Representative Keith Ellison is very supportive of it. So we're working on legislators that we hope will be leaders and push this through the House of Representatives once we get it passed through the Senate, one step at a time.
Well, Council Dan Samuel and from Ward 5, and he's coming for this 6 months anniversary of the massacre of Newton, the tragedy over there. Tell us a little bit about why you are here, sir.
Well, I'm here because I think that we can't let these things fade from our memory. We remember right after the massacre, everybody was willing to do something. In fact, some people who were very much on the extreme conservative end of this were saying, okay, this time we have to do something. And many of those people, as the days went by, began to backtrack.
If people were listened to, all of this would have been done a long time ago, because the people are, in fact, passionate about ending gun violence. I think there isn't a state in the union where 80% of the population doesn't support gun violence. But we're seeing the result of gun lobby money preventing the people from being hurt. People want gun violence to stop.
It seems like the majority of American people are for gun control. But why it's not happening? What's the role of you guys? Why not taking the will of the people and materialize
Well, the will of the people is a feature in politicians' lives, but also there is their capacity to persuade the people to will them back into office. It's a very circular thing.
Oh, I see.
So here are the people vote for me. Here is the person who funds my campaign, so that I can persuade the people to vote for me. So politicians sometimes make a decision, do I cater to the people, or do I cater to the funders of my campaign so I can persuade the people? So
the will of God is not violence. The will of God is that we treat each other, with dignity and humanity.
You think the bigger challenge is how the system works and how the American people are really mobilized for
well, I think to a certain degree it's a system, but every system is going to be imperfect and flawed. We can create better systems. But I think even more sustainable is if we create a better culture. A culture of intolerance, of violence, a culture of honoring life, respect for life. And then that begins to change the politicians. And, we can have a country that is actually less restrictive than us or equally restrictive, but the culture is not as violent. Yeah. And so I think doing things that demonstrate our culture shift is really important. That's why I think an event like this that says 6 months after a disaster, the folks, people all around the country care so much about it, are so moved by it, that they're still expressing that grief.
We shall overcome.